The Solomon Island Giants. The Solomon Islands, located northeast of Australia, is a tropical paradise, with crystal clear waters, lush green jungles, but this beautiful place holds some mysterious secrets. According to the locals and their traditions, many of the inner areas of the islands in the dense unexplored jungles are inhabited by ferocious giants. That might sound crazy to you, but believe it or not, this isn't just a legend. If you ask many of the locals, the giants aren't considered a myth or conspiracy. According to them, it's simply a fact. In this documentary, we'll cover eyewitness accounts from the Japanese soldiers in World War II who witnessed their fellow soldiers being eaten alive. And we will document giants kidnapping women and dragging them off into the jungle, as well as other eyewitness stories, including footage of a massive grave of a giant that can still be found today in one of the islands. Who are these giants? Just how tall are they? And are they still lurking in the jungles of the islands? We'll answer all these questions and more on today's episode of Ancient Giant Mysteries. During World War II, the Solomon Islands became a battleground. When the Japanese forces invaded the islands and American troops eventually landed, a 6-month battle took place. During these months, the Japanese forces chose to use guerrilla tactics against the Allies, sneaking in the jungle, attacking the Americans, and fleeing into the forest again. But to the Americans' surprise, many of the islands that they knew had Japanese forces were practically empty. Only a few soldiers remained and immediately surrendered, which was very odd because no Japanese soldier would ever surrender like that. But these soldiers were terrified and traumatized from what they had seen. They explained that during the day, they had to deal with the Americans, but at night they had to worry about these enormous giants sneaking up on them. Exhausted and unable to sleep, the Japanese soldiers would hear the screams of their friends as they were clubbed or speared to death and often ripped into pieces and devoured on the spot. The few who survived were petrified from what they had witnessed, shaking and often unable to calm down after seeing these huge creatures eating their fellow soldiers. The screams were echoing in their minds. They described these giants as massive, from 8 to 15 feet tall, often with shaggy hair, either brown, black, or red hair covering most of their body. Witnesses say that they have a very human appearance. The consistency of these stories is unsettling. Different soldiers, same terrifying details. When you consider these eyewitness accounts of the soldiers and from the local citizens as well, it makes these stories all the more frightening. Now, this next account really creeped me out, so viewer discretion is advised. There is a story from the 1950s that speaks about a woman named Mango. One day, the people of her village were extremely concerned when she mysteriously vanished. After weeks spent looking for her, her family finally gave up hope, assuming the worst. Years passed, and then something astonishing happened. Miraculously, Mango was found just on the outskirts of her village. She was not well. She was ill, and she was injured, and she was pregnant. She could not communicate very well since she had not spoken her native language in so long, but she did manage to tell them what happened. She told them that she had been kidnapped all those years ago by the giants. They dragged her off into the night and kept her captive in the deep jungles in the far-off secluded areas where the giants lived. She told them that one of the giants had forced her to be his bride, and that's how she got pregnant. She somehow managed to escape their camp and miraculously found her old village where she grew up. She was mentally unwell, and to make matters worse, when she gave birth to the hybrid child, it was so strange looking that Mango's brother destroyed it. Many of the locals know the exact location where her baby is buried. Mango sadly passed away in the year 2000, but her tragic story lives on. The description of these giants sounds almost like a Sasquatch, but the use of clubs and spears makes one wonder if they are similar to the Kandahar giant but with more hair on their body, ranging in height from 8 feet tall all the way up to the largest male giants at a staggering 15 feet tall, and some say even taller. The stories of these giants began to captivate a wider audience when Australian engineer Marius Boirayan began recording the islanders' accounts. The local population's awareness of these enigmatic beings, and even local newspaper publications, speak to the prevalence of these stories. In this video, taken by a tourist, it shows what the locals believe to be the grave of a giant. The video is from YouTube.
This is apparently the grave of a giant person. It's more than 7 meters tall.
And the length is a mind-blowing 7 meters long. That's over 21 feet tall. There are stories of battles that the local tribes had with these giants in the past. Also tales that the giants had a war amongst themselves generations ago that killed many of them off. Some islanders believe that the giants are still alive to this day, and others believe that they did exist in the past, but they are extinct. The introduction of guns on the island made the giants avoid trying to eat or kidnap the locals, and they moved away from the humans and deep into the thick jungles. In 1998, there's another strange account from workers in a mining company that had started a project in the jungle areas. The bulldozer that they used needed a repair, so they disconnected the large dozer blade, leaving it there in the jungle overnight, and the workers went home for the evening. When they returned the next morning, they were shocked. The enormous 10-ton dozer blade was missing. After some investigating, they saw that it had been moved and then appeared to have been tossed into the bushes. They found it 100 meters away, and they found enormous 3-foot-long footprints that were seen right next to where they had left it. Residents of Guadalcanal say that there is an underground city that these giants inhabit. They say that Mount Tatuva is where one of the main entrances is. According to the locals who had been kidnapped by the giants and then released, say that the inner mountain city is somehow illuminated by a light source that they cannot explain. They say that they also live in the underground cave systems, and these caves go from one side of the island all the way to the other. This is how the giants move around the island and where they can remain unseen. There's another account from Ezekiel Alebua, the former Prime Minister of Solomon Islands. Ezekiel shares a story from his childhood where his father brought him up to the mountain caves, and inside was a full skeleton of a giant. Ezekiel was in awe at the enormous size of it. The massive skeleton was around 15 feet tall. Another eyewitness account comes from the former minister of Guadalcanal named Victor. When he was out surveying the land, his car slipped off the road in the mud. They walked to the local village and got around 30 men to come and help them push it back on the road. To their surprise, when they returned, they saw 2 enormous giants standing by the car that was now back on the road. All the men ran away. After some time they returned and the giants were gone, but they noticed that the large footprints were still next to the car. Up till this day, many locals refuse to go into the inner areas of the jungle for fear that they will encounter these giants. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe to this channel if you wish to see more documentaries like this. Tune in next time as we explore more ancient giant mysteries.